Greetings, esteemed colleagues, tutors, professors, and decision makers. This House believes that governments should prioritize health equity over economic growth in their response to the dual crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change.
The formulation of the motion states that health equity should be a greater priority than economic growth during pandemics like COVID-19 and climate change. However, prioritizing health equity over economic growth is a mistake, especially in pandemics, and my team will explain why.
So how can you think about building your GDP, yet your people are dying? How can you think about providing jobs, yet people are dying? Who is going to do that job if people are dying?
And so examples such as telehealth, you've seen the importance of telehealth. Now we are able to see patients at home without having to go to the hospital. And this is courtesy of research and development and also innovation that is already existing. And so what we are saying, ladies and gentlemen, is to prioritize other avenues, as my first speaker earlier talked about, prioritizing both of them, because this is an important event. And we need to understand that they are bidirectional. They depend on each other. You cannot achieve health equity without looking at the economic growth.
Do you want to grow economically while drinking poison water in the middle of typhoon and a virus is ravaging your friends and your family? Well, for me, I certainly do not. And I hope you do not either. Thank you.
Prioritizing health equity over economic growth is indeed a noble, but quite a risky path, which has a very high probability of ending up with catastrophic consequences for the people.
These are the marginalized people, the homeless people, those from ethnic and racial minorities, those with comorbidities. They do not bring any profit to the economic interests on this other side.
While health equity is the goal, our existing social, economic, and governance structures make it an impossibility without first ensuring economic growth and economic development, particularly in lower and middle income countries.
The question is, do you prioritize economic growth in the light of a pandemic? Humans are your most important resource. If a pandemic is ravaging your community, now do you want to grow your GDP when people are dying? I mean, who are you growing for?
We use the New Zealand example in the context that because they were able to find a good balance between equity, health equity, and economics, they are one of the success stories that we are telling now.
We've witnessed global temperatures rise, highest ever, 1.5 degrees above pre-pandemic levels, with September and December being the hottest months of last year ever recorded in history. We've witnessed natural disasters, because this is not just an environmental aspect, but this affects habitats, it affects our livelihoods, and it affects human lives. We've witnessed an unprecedented rate of natural disasters, leading to hundreds of thousands of lives being destroyed, lives that could have been saved.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will not shut up. We will not let up. We will not give up. And we will not wrap up until the truth is believed. And my team and I will show you the truth. And the truth is, international climate pledges are effective in combating climate change.
To use that much money just to sign an agreement, the least we could expect is for it to achieve some of the intended objectives, which it has not.
Ladies and gentlemen, for international pledges to be effective, they need to drive measurable progress towards a goal, which is combating climate change. One way of measuring progress is by comparing the reality versus expected target, which is the proposition is trying to do. However, is this way actually capturing the whole effort we are making to combat climate change? Not really.
America is actually 30% behind from meeting the 2030 targets that have been set. So many inconsistencies that are there, and these are grounded And these are facts that are there within the climate trackers that have been set.
Imagine we are in the year 2065, facing a stark reality. Nearly 2/3 of the ozone layer has vanished, casting a shadow of our planet's future. The ozone hole, once confined to Antarctica, has now extended its ominous reach to the North Pole. The consequences are dire.
So these agreements, like Paris Agreement, conveniently overlooks this reality and only focus in future reductions without taking into account historical realities.
Kenya is relatively a very low emitter of greenhouse gases and only emits 0.2% of the total global contributions. That's much less, guys. And still, Kenya is suffering.
I would also like to say that the second argument emphasized the non-involvement of crucial non-state actors. I think, Rasika, you used the World Bank report in your argument. The World Bank has just been involved in these agreements. They were not included in the negotiations, they were not included in the planning, but just in the last phases of these agreements.
To address the proposition's well-intentioned arguments, they made the fatal flaw of judging institutional pledges purely based on their deliberately lofty targets, which were set to inspire countries to meet these goals. However, this is not the topic of the debate. The topic of the debate is on whether international pledges are effective at combating climate change. And we have showed that international pledges have been effective at combating climate change, despite not meeting some of these deliberately lofty targets.
It is important that we keep the conversation about climate change going. And so in the spirit of discourse, I stand here before you to, as the proposition speaker, to speak about decarbonization of healthcare services. And we are for the motion that decarbonization of healthcare services should be a priority for the high-income countries only.
Prioritizing does not mean doing everything right away. Some actions are indeed better delayed in low-income countries until the technology costs have decreased, but all countries can identify early action that makes sense within their overall development strategy and prioritize this.
It is noteworthy that high-income countries have a larger older population. And these older consumers, crucial to the pharmaceutical industry, spend more on medical supplies and drugs than any other age group.
But the research is resounding. Studies conducted on driving sustainable supply chain management in the public sector across high-income countries such as the USA, Switzerland, Netherlands, and others alike speak of the transformative power of government demand for sustainable healthcare products, propelling manufacturers and suppliers toward eco-friendly practices.
Air pollution from burning fossil fuels from healthcare services in low and middle income countries have been linked to variety of diseases, cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, and even impaired cognitive ability.
Interestingly, these are the things that low and middle income countries already struggle with within their healthcare systems. So how can they be expected to make decarbonization a priority when they already may not have the capacity for research, budgets, and technology development in other components of their healthcare systems?
I think it's very important for us today, in the spirit of debate, for us to have a very clear understanding. Now, we all understand and we all recognize the fact that all countries should, to a certain extent, contribute towards decarbonization. That's set in stone. We all agree with it. Let's shake hands. The key today is how do you then impose priorities upon countries? You have a high-income country that has all the resources, all the financial capability, and a track record of actually committing all these sins versus a country that hasn't done so, has no capacity to do so, and in trying to do so will cause detriment to their own citizens. How then do you say both of you should impose the exact same prioritization strategies? It's not a question of it being number one or number two. It's a question of prioritization.
They spoke about technologies. We are not saying transition to low carbon emission trains in Africa. That is not sustainable. We can't do that right now. We know all the issues in Africa. We are saying share technologies. Let's do what we can. Let's deal with the low hanging fruit. Prioritize based on your capacity.